Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hi, it's Joanna here for Into the LightWeb podcast, and we are on the Gift Lab series, and I am joined by my beautiful client and student, the gorgeous Katie Carey. Hello, Katie. Come and say hi and introduce yourself.
Hello, Joanna. It's great to be here in the gift. I'm really excited about this container and what's going to happen and develop over the next 3 months. And yeah, thank you for inviting me on.
I'm really excited. I'm excited to have a conversation with you because it's just so juicy, because we've been working together for quite some time and things like that. So tell people what it is that you do in the world first, because I think this is so relevant to the conversation we're going to have today.
I own a brand called Soulful Valley, which is a podcast and a publishing house, and I'm an international best-selling author.
I love it. I love it.
You see the smile there? That's the dream.
I love it. Exactly. That is the dream, to be that best-selling author. So you've been in my world for quite some time. You jumped in. We actually met through another program called Denise Duffield Thomas's boot camp.
We did.
The money boot camp, which we were just having a little chat before the show of how both of us joined that from what could only be described as an oh shit place. That we were both like, oh my God, I hope this investment pans out. And then we jumped in and we invested. And of course, for both of us, it turned out to be like one of the really marvelous investment in doing that. And we've met so many great people through that. And me and you met through that.
We did. And my shit place was really shit, in that I'd just been ill health retired from my job. And I really didn't have the money to do something like this, but I knew I had to do something. And I jumped into there. And I didn't have that many shifts in that group, to be honest, because there weren't a lot of people like me in there. I was watching a lot of other people who were doing brilliant things.
Okay.
At the time, I was on a lot of medication as well. So I wasn't in the best place to take on board what was being taught, I don't think. But it was the people that came out of there, the relationships that came out of there, that would move me forwards further down the line.
Oh, I love that. I think so. And this is another thing, because we got everybody to enter the gift container on two frequencies, the frequency of trust and the frequency of faith. The question that they had to ask themselves was, do you wish to be, part of something extraordinary? And if it was a yes, could you move in trust and faith and purchase the container, right? Like that was a premise. And that's something that both me and you have had such experience with, of moving in trust and faith in a place where, like it doesn't make logical sense financially for us to do these things. And then we've gone and done them and stuff like that as well. And when you came and joined my world, you were very much in that place again of really feeling called in trust and faith. Tell people how that kind of worked out and how that sort of unfolded.
Well, I'd been plodding along building an online business that was okay, but it wasn't great. I was selling on eBay, and I'd been running a charity, and I decided that I was going to try and take the stuff that I'd learned online. But COVID hit and everything stopped, and I felt backed into a corner. And then somehow you popped up somewhere on Denise's money boot camp with a 444 angel workshop. And I felt you so deeply. And I was like, oh my God, who is this woman? This is just, I need to go and look at what you're doing, because obviously what you were doing was working. So I then landed in a free workshop of yours that was leading into Divine Planning Abundant Profits. And I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. But then I got a message saying that I could have a mortgage holiday for 6 months because of COVID, and I could have a 6-month holiday on my credit card payment. So I just felt, this is it, do it. This is the chance. And it's the only chance that I could feel, excuse me, that was there for me at that time. It just felt like I was called to do it. And it was probably the best decision of my life. You've seen what's happened since.
I have. It just makes me cry, and I get so excited. It has just been so freaking epic. What I love is that you came into this angel workshop. Now, this angel workshop, I want to talk about this just for a second, because then I want to talk about you and all the amazingness of trust and faith. But it's so funny because that angel workshop was total trust and faith. I have never, ever, ever, and even since then, I've never offered a container where it's pay what you want. Right. And I was asked to put this, it was the 444 portal, Archangel portal, and Archangel Metronon. I was channeling and working with Archangel Metronon, and Archangel Metronon says, and we want you to put this out to pay what you want. And the faith that it took me to be able to put an offer like this, I mean, my little ego, it was like, have you ever seen those the bucking Broncos? You know, like I was like that with my ego, you know, she was going crazy. Like, what do you mean pay what you want? You know, instead of having a set price and things like that. It was so fascinating and so interesting of how much it brought up for people to even be able to decide what to pay me on that workshop and things like that. Really, it was such an interesting, I mean, it was so fascinating. And it was so, yeah, it was so interesting, and all about like the energetic exchange, all about trust and faith from me, but also as well, every time somebody chose an amount that they were going to pay for that workshop, they had to hold trust and faith. Yeah. That they had paid what they felt this was worth to them. And it was so fascinating and interesting to me. And then I had some lovely people that maybe only paid a few dollars, but they said, you know, this is what I can afford. I hope you understand. And I was like, listen, I made peace with this before I even put the offer out. Like I've ridden the bucking bronco of my ego, and I've made peace with this. And it was so lovely. And it brought so many new people into my world. And I really thoroughly enjoyed the experience of offering a workshop like that. And the workshop that channeled through me was really next level, which I really love. But it was incredible. So you jumped into Divine Planning of Winning Profits, and we're having this complete remake of your business. We're like ground up, because eBay is gone, isn't it?
eBay's gone. And I had these ideas of what I was going to do with courses. Let me just go back to your workshop though, because I was the person that could only manage 11.11. I paid £11.11. Felt a bit, you know, I couldn't do
any more than that. I was so good with it.
The fact that you did that meant that I jumped into your world, and I wouldn't have jumped into your world on that day if that wasn't, you know, what you offered. So yeah,
this is the ripple of trust and faith, right?
Exactly,
like this is the ripple of trust and faith, because I put this offer out, and I had to be so in integrity with my trust and faith in that moment. It was so mind-blowing. And I mean, like, talk about like laying awake at night staring at the ceiling thinking, can I pull this off? Can I hold the energy for this? Because what the angels were asking me to hold, I was like, am I big enough of a human to hold the energy for this? Because I'm like, crikey, you know. And I ran through all these scenarios, like, what if one person pays me a penny? Am I gonna be okay? You know, like, you know, and I set a boundary that as long as there was, it didn't matter if it was from 1 penny upwards, as long as there was a monetary. We had 2 people that were very cheeky and put the thing through with no money. We wrote back to them and said, no, it is a monetary amount. That's it. You know, and, you know, feel free to join if you want to join. Otherwise, you know, you might look like you've signed up, but you have not signed up. You know, there has to be an exchange of energy. And that was the place where I could be at peace with it completely. There had to be an exchange of energy. And but it was, you know, and so before I even put that offer out, you know, I had to do my thing and sit with it and be so totally in integrity with it. So every amount, even 11, you know, and you were not the only person who paid 11.11. There was lots of people who paid me all the ones, and it was really beautiful. And everyone was just received with such heartfelt gratitude. And by that time, my soul and my heart and my being and my spirit were so on board with it that I just loved every time I saw one of the sales notifications, and I was like, ooh, what did they do? You know, where it was so exciting. And I also know that for, you know, because I had people coming to me and going, this is really bringing my shit up. You know, like, I am so stressed over what am I going to pay for this workshop.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was fascinating, but it was just this container of trust and faith. And I think in a way, me and you, Katie, we have just moved, as we've moved, you and your life's moved on. It's just this theme of trust and faith has just been in our relationship.
I had to be in a place of trust and faith, I think, because I couldn't see any other way to go anyway. And when I did get into that place of trust and faith, just synchronicities were popping up everywhere, right back from the early days, because the opportunity for the podcast popped up just after that, you know, a few weeks after that workshop, when I was in your world. I'd done your free I can't remember what the course was now. I think it was the elements.
Was it the yeah, I was going to say, I was thinking it was the elements. Yeah, because that was a good 5-day one, and we went through all the 5 elements of the business.
And I just absolutely loved that. And I think I'd clicked on applying for divine planning abundant profits at around the same time that the podcasting challenge came up. So it was at the same sort of time when I was thrifting, and I just knew when that popped up as well, that popped up for me, because there were so many things surrounding it that showed me that everything I'd been doing leading up to that moment, that point in time, was meant for this. So I already had all the equipment to do a podcast, which is crazy.
It's amazing.
Didn't even have to
and also as well, like, I can help but thinking the podcast was so aligned for you because you had a background in media and television. I mean, you had been an actress, you know, a child actress. You had this background in media in a way, if you like, and things like that. And for me, it just felt like this natural, well, she's kind of like, she's already got the skill set. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like this natural thing. What's transpired is, I mean, I cannot be prouder of you and your achievements, because what's transpired is Soulful Valley is in the top 1% of globally ranked podcasts.
And that's just amazing, isn't it? Because I've looked around at who else is in the top 1%, and most people in the top 1% are either pretty famous or they've had seriously good VIP, done for you services, basically. So to have got there, and I haven't done all of the things in the training that I was told to do either, because I didn't have the energy, because, you know, I'm living with things, you know, exhaustion a lot and physical pain. So I couldn't do all of the things that was expected of me in the training. I haven't even been on a pod tour. You're the second podcast I've been on. Everybody else is doing pod tours to get those audiences. So again, I had to trust myself that I was doing the right thing for me as well.
I love it. It's so cool. I mean, like, just what you've transpired. And then from the podcast came this, and we've got a bit of an anniversary for you today as well. At the time of recording this, Katie it's her year anniversary of becoming a best-selling author.
No, it's the year anniversary of saying yes
to the
opportunity that came my way, to become a best-selling author. Again, in a place of trust and faith, because I didn't know the person that presented the opportunity to me. I hadn't seen anybody else doing this at all. So I felt called, and I had put something on my vision board right at about a week before, saying best-selling author right on the center of the vision board, because I had made the decision that this was the year I was going to do it. But I didn't in a million years think it was going to come that way.
And it led to literally the birth of your publishing house as well on top from that experience, and enjoying that so much, you created opportunities for other people to become best-selling authors.
I did, because I loved it so much as well, and it made it so easy for me to feel confident about writing, to know that I didn't have to do it a whole book in one go, and all of the hard work that would have come with that. I'd created that, this opportunity had been created for me, and now I'd come across again in another place of knowing and trusting that this was meant for me, the opportunity to create exactly the same experience for other people who had been like me, who've wanted to write, or who are doing something so that is just brilliant and needs to be out there, and would have an opportunity to show it through a book. It's all been from a place of deep trust and faith. If I looked at any of it logically, I wouldn't have done it.
No, and I think this is one of the things that when we are, one of the reasons we don't want to define the gift for everybody, we want people to come up with their own definition of the gift, is that it is about learning to navigate and move in the intangible energy. And that's in learning to navigate and move in the intangible energy. You do things that make absolutely no sense whatsoever in the physical world, like none.
Yeah.
Like on paper, that initial investment that I met through the group that we ended up meeting in, that initial investment that made absolutely no financial sense to me whatsoever. And, I would have been much better trying to keep that money because I was homeless at the time, to keep that money to pay my deposit for a new house or a new home for me and my family. And instead, here I am going, hey, here's this chick I've met on the internet for 5 minutes, and I'm going to put it into her course, and I'm going to believe in myself enough that this is going to shift me, and it's such a beautiful thing. What I love is this ripple effect of trust and faith through you, because every time that you offer an opportunity to join your multi-author books and to write a chapter in that book, the women who jump into that opportunity, they're doing so in trust and faith, right? Yeah. And I love that, because it is just creating this really powerful, intangible energy field around you, of where really kind of what I always think in the field of trust and faith, miracles happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is. And how many best-selling books do you have now at the time of recording this?
I've written in 3 best-selling books. I've launched as a publisher 1 best-selling book, and I've got 2 more in creation. So it's an exciting journey. But the other thing as well, Joanna, is when I made all of these decisions, I think, at the beginning, I might have expected the money would be coming in through the business, but it never did. It came from really unexpected sources of support. And it happened over the last year. It happened to me. And I think I shared it in your group each time it happened. So there was like a pension lump sum that I wasn't expecting. And then a huge council tax refund because I'd been paying too much for 4 years and didn't know. Just all of these little things that just manifested. And even when the publishing training was way out of my league, and she was targeting people to train who were they were earning 100 grand a year. I wasn't. I was still on welfare. But things happened. I got a PPI payment popped in for one of because I did it over 3 months. It was a 3 grand investment, one I couldn't make. But I said yes. After jumping in, I jumped into your divine downloads first, and I downloaded the book titles first. So I knew, because the book titles were just magnificent. And I knew that I had to do this, and I would be supported. And I was each step of the way. And it's just really, really, I mean, even though I've had so many experiences now, I'm still in awe each time something happens that just, it's evidence for me over and over again. And the latest book title, I think, has come through just to show that as well, because it's evolving on purpose, co-creating with the divine. So the type of authors that are going to come in are going to be teaching a lot more about trust and faith as well.
I love it. It is such a powerful and potent magic that's happened. And I mean, the amount of money that you have manifested since you've been jumped into my world is like, it's incredible. Like just lump sums coming in, and it's, you have been supported from every which corner of the universe, has literally. And this is what I loved, this is why I wanted to have you on this podcast, because I thought it was so important to have this conversation of that, even though something may not look like sense on paper.
And the people around you will be questioning, what the f are you doing?
Yes, exactly. Like, have you lost your marbles?
I mean, I think my daughter, she works in a mental health hospital. I think she was seriously wondering.
I know. And this is it, right? This is it. And it's there's a quote, and I can't remember who it's by now, but it was the dancers were thought to be quite mad by the people who couldn't hear the music. I think I'll have to put it in the show notes, and I'll look it up, but I'll put it in the show notes who said it. But I love that quote, because sometimes, the universe moves you and it's only you that can hear the music, and everyone thinks you're a bit bonkers. Moving with the universe, moving with that trust and faith, moving with, just trusting. And I mean, in the short space that you've been in my world, we've celebrated you for 5K months, and your business is growing from strength to strength. And I can see this publishing house becoming bigger and bigger, and probably eventually taking on other big projects and things, and it's just such a beautiful unfoldment of energy.
It also reconnects me back into what was a real support for me as a child. I loved books as a child. My dad taught me to read before I even started school, and it was reading books that got me through a really traumatic childhood. So I've sort of come full circle. When you look at the whole picture of everything that I've done, I've come full circle back into a passion that was mine as a child. So it all makes perfect sense, and I'm in love with Soulful Valley.
I love that. And that's what it's about. I mean, that's what we create here, is like an incredible quality of life. I mean, that's a big part of the teachings of unity consciousness, and and the teachings of Be Magic and Skylar and everything. It's not just about how much money can we make, it's about how amazing can we create our lives, that we are become wildly obsessed with them, and we are so grateful each day that we wake up, and the impact that we have on others.
Yeah, when you just said unity consciousness there, that was a big piece for me that was so important. That when I did the unity course with you and went back into complete self-love, because I had been hustling for years, and that was how I ended up disabled. So it was just a massive piece, and it was the piece that had me channeling again, because I hadn't channeled, because I used to write songs when I was younger. But when I did that course with you, I channeled a song that I knew that it was supposed to be for the podcast, so I used it on the podcast. And during that course as well, I got my ex-husband to sign my divorce papers, and I'd been stuck in a cycle of about 3 years being separated from him. Well, I couldn't do that. But when I did Unity, I could. I went completely back to, or maybe I've never done this as an adult, to really, really caring about myself.
It's an extraordinary program, Unity. I mean, it really is, because it just really reconnects you into the essence of who you truly are, really, isn't it? And
yeah,
you start to honor that again. I think, I think they're so easy. Skylar talk about the great forgetting, that, we come here, first of all, with full knowledge of who we are and what we are. And then through childhood, we enter into a soul game called the Great Forgetting. And then as soon as we've gotten to a stage of where we've really forgotten our greatness, we've piled enough crap on top of ourselves, we enter into the next phase of the game, which is the exciting part of the game for the soul, which is the great remembering, So we do that. We come in with a full knowledge, then we go through the process of the great forgetting, and then the and it's a bit like hide and seek. The first part is somebody has to stand there and count, and then we all have to go off and hide the child's game, and then the most exciting bit is when the person's trying to look for you and you're sitting there going, will I be found out? Did I pick a good enough hiding space? And that's what it is. It's like this giant game of hide and seek with our light. And we often, it isn't until, for me personally, it wasn't until my adult life. Even just the very, very simple statement that happiness is a choice. I was like, what craziness is this? Of course it's not a choice, that was my first encounter with that, of I didn't really know how happiness happened. It was just, for me, it was this kind of thing, the planets aligned, the sun shone on you or something like that. And, if you were lucky, you would get to experience happiness. I didn't realize that it could be this purposeful connection that I could have, a daily choice that I could make. That was a surprise to me, because my great forgetting had been so complete that it was such a surprise to me when I discovered
you didn't have to attach your happiness to other people, because I think that's where I expected my happiness to come from, and it didn't, and I was often disappointed. That was the theme of my life. Thankfully, I don't do disappointment anymore. I make choices and they're mine, and I realized that any happiness in my life is down to me to create.
Yes. Oh, music to my ears. I love it. It is. And it's such a personal, deep inner choice, and it's a daily choice. It's a daily choice. It's just like that daily choice of moving and willing to walk in your life with trust and faith.
Absolutely. Regardless of what's going on the planet around you as well. There's so much that could pull us down, isn't there? There is, right? And one of the things I love for that is, the best way to help the planet, the miserable people of this planet, is not to be one of them. Yeah, definitely.
And it always just sticks with me. That always just sticks with me, that, and that's really, that's the essence of Mahatma Gandhi's teachings, isn't it? Be the change you wish to see in the world. And that piece of teachings had a profound effect on my life.
It has me too. I've quoted that when I used to run the charity. It's the sort of thing I used to quote, because change, expecting everything to change and for other people to do it, well, we're never going to see change, are we? If we all take a bit of responsibility for our own lives, what we can do, then we can create magic.
It's such an amazing thing. I just get so excited by it, and I'm so excited, to see what you have created in under 2 years, and what's happening next, and what's going to unfold for you next, and all the new authors that are going to become published authors first and foremost, which is an achievement in itself, because I reckon everybody has got a book inside them. Everybody has got a book inside them. And so if we look at that everybody has a good book inside them, we see what a tiny portion of people actually realize that dream of publishing, of writing, of creating. And there's something so solid about creating a book. I've been a published author now a number of times, but there's something so, it's a legacy. It's going to live beyond you.
Even my children have wanted a copy of the book. I love that.
One of my biggest
I'll leave that behind when I'm gone.
I love it. Exactly right. You're leaving. It's a legacy that you can leave, and it's a legacy of light. If you've poured your heart, your soul, and your light into something like that, it is a legacy of light that you leave on the planet, which I really beautifully love that. I remember one of my highlights was my son reading my first book, Get Selfish, The Way Is Through. And he was at that kind of teenage years, where I don't know what it is that happens to young men, but they sort of lose the ability to talk. They regress and everything becomes grunts, like meh. And he was at that sort of stage. and he asked to read it, and I thought, okay. And so I gave him a copy, and a couple of days later he came back and he goes, that was quite good, eh? And you know what, it was like if the worst critic in the whole world had just like given you like if Simon Cowell said yes to you, you know. I was just so elated. Because I thought, is he gonna get these concepts? Is he gonna think his mom's even more crazy, you know? And it was just so beautiful, and I just remember my heart just bursting with pride and so delighted that my son had loved my book.
And even now as well, my daughter, because I've been doing Reiki for years, and she used to think it was really weird, but now she's working in the mental health hospital and there are nurses on the ward who are going for Reiki, and she's like, Mum, they're all going for Reiki. And I said, well, do you want some?
I love it. And you know what, I heard a really cool statistic on Reiki. I know we're going off on a wee tangent here on this, but in the UK, there are more registered Reiki 2 practitioners than registered nurses.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Because they can help the nurses now. So
absolutely. And it shows the shift in consciousness. And I have a lot of clients who have been nurses or are actively in hospitals working as nurses, and many of them are Reiki attuned, which is beautiful to think that we have that in our wards and our hospitals and things like that. You know, it's coming. We are in what I truly believe is a spiritual revolution right now of rediscovering our connection with source and the divine.
So exciting.
It is. I mean, what a time to be alive. And, you know, a time where we can broadcast ourselves like this. It's like having your own radio show. We can, you know, have our own publishing houses, things that before would have needed massive investments that we can now do. And you can be your own published author by going and checking out Katie and joining in one of her books. And it's so nice, that sisterhood and the camaraderie that happens inside your books as well.
It is, because you know, it's not just the chapter in the book, we've got a community and we're all still connected, and we probably will be forever. Basically, it's about relationships, isn't it? It's not about numbers. It's about how we can lift each other.
I love that. Katie, do you have a favorite place to hang out on the internet? We're going to pop everything in the show notes, but if somebody's just listening to this, they're ready to dive straight into your world, how can they get what's on the show notes? You know, we're going to put all your details on the show notes, but tell somebody, do you prefer Instagram or do you prefer Facebook? Where can they find you? Where's your favorite place to hang?
I am always on Facebook. I have given you a link that's a multiple of links, so it's one link that's a bio.
Perfect. Okay, ideal.
But the website is soulfulvalley.com.
Magic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us. I just can't wait to see what's going to happen. I'm so excited. I'm like,
I'm so excited too. Thank you, Joanna.
Oh, it's been gorgeous this morning.